Part 2, Moses and foreshadowing of Yahusha, justice, obedience, and the living word. This is part 2 of our study. In part 1, we explored the birth of Moses, how he was preserved under bondage, and how Yahuwah's hand moved to protect and prepare his chosen servant. We saw foreshadowings of Yahusha and his birth, and now we continue into the next chapters of Exodus. In these chapters, we will take a more thorough look at Moses' early life as a leader in Midian, his calling at the burning bush, and his first confrontation with Pharaoh. We will examine the signs, the fears, and the obedience that define a servant of Yahuwah. Each event in detail contains foreshadowing of Yahusha, showing how his life and mission mirror these early patterns of leadership, justice, and divine purpose. Our purpose is clear. We're demonstrating that Yahusha is the living word. Every act, every instruction, and every encounter in these chapters points to him, the one who fulfills the law, speaks with authority, and brings life and deliverance. By studying Moses' journey, his calling, and his struggles, we gain insight into the character and mission of the Messiah, who will come to save all nations, not just Israel. As we go through the story of Moses, we will connect the historical narrative with spiritual truths, highlighting justice versus oppression, divine guidance, the power of the word, the symbolism of water and fire, the shepherd's heart, and the victory over evil that Yahuwah promises through obedience and faith. Every detail is a lesson, and every foreshadowing is a testimony of Yahusha's life and mission. After Moses had grown, one day he saw an Egyptian taskmaster striking a Hebrew. His heart burned with righteous anger, and he stepped forward. Exodus 2 verse 11 tells us, one day when Moses had grown up, he went out to his people and observed their burdens. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his people. Though raised in Pharaoh's household, Moses still remembered his people and their suffering under oppression. The physical violence of the taskmaster was only part of the weight he observed. Moses could not ignore this act of cruelty, for his heart was already being shaped by Yahuwah's sense of justice. This moment was not about tribe, nationality, or personal gain. It was about righteousness, the moral imperative to stand against oppression. Even then, Yahuwah was preparing his servant to confront wrongdoing with courage and integrity, a foreshadowing of Yahusha confronting injustice without fear or compromise, standing for truth and mercy even in the face of those who opposed him. In the Besorah, we see this principle in action. Matthew 10 verse 16 says, "Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves." Moses struck the Egyptian acting out of righteous anger. This is a contrast to Yahusha's method. When his disciples struck the servant of the high priest cutting off his ear, Yahusha immediately healed it, showing that divine justice is restorative rather than violent. Luke 22 verse 50 and 51 says, "And one of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Yahusha said, 'No more of this.' And he touched his ear and healed him." Here Yahusha demonstrates justice with mercy, confronting evil without retaliation, reflecting the foreshadowing of Moses' heart while revealing the higher standard of Yahuwah's justice, which restores rather than destroys. Moses' human justice required violence, as Exodus 2 verse 12 explains. He looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he struck the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. Divine justice, however, flows from mercy and life, not retaliation. Luke 4 verse 18 illustrates this mission. "The Spirit of Yahusha is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised." The very next day, Moses saw two Hebrews fighting. After he intervened, they turned to him and asked, "Who made you a ruler and a judge over us? Are you thinking to kill thee as you killed the Egyptian?" That was in Exodus 2 verse 14. Even when acting righteously, Moses was questioned by his own people. This moment foreshadows Yahusha being rejected by many in Israel despite his divine mission. John 1 verse 11 confirms, "He came unto his own, and his own received him not." The prophet is often misunderstood, yet Yahuwah's plan continues regardless of human opinion. Moses' authority and calling did not depend on human approval, just as Yahusha's mission was ordained by Yahuwah, even in the face of rejection. When Pharaoh learned of Moses' actions, he sought to kill him. Exodus 2 verse 15 says, "Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian." A pattern repeats with Yahusha, who as an infant fled Herod's decree of death. Matthew 2 verse 13 and 14 records, "When they were departed, behold, the angel of Yahuwah appeareth to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt." Both were chosen servants, protected by Yahuwah and preserved for their missions. Even in flight, the plan moved forward. Moses arrived at a well in Midian. In scripture, calling often happens near water, which represents the word. And here Moses receives direction and purpose, foreshadowing Yahusha receiving the Ruach HaKodesh at his baptism. Reuel's daughters came to draw water. Exodus 2, verse 16 and 17 says, Then the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them. Moses received water, defended the vulnerable, and was led to a new life. This mirrors Yahusha ministering to the thirsty, the lost, and the oppressed. John 4, verse 14 confirms, But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. Moses acted out of justice and integrity, not nationalism or favoritism. Exodus 2, verse 19 says, He said to them, Why have you left your flock to me? This shows that Moses' concern was for the responsibility entrusted to him rather than for his own people's status. He intervened because it was right, not because of allegiance to a particular group. This establishes a pattern of leadership rooted in righteousness and care for the vulnerable, rather than personal gain or tribal loyalty. Moses became a shepherd in Midian, tending the flocks of Reuel's daughters, learning the patience, diligence, and guidance required of a true leader. This preparation foreshadows Yahusha, the good shepherd, who cares for all who are entrusted to him and sacrifices himself for their well-being. As John 10, verse 11 says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. Moses' personal life also reflects this pattern of humility and being a stranger in a strange land. He married Zipporah and had a son, whom he named Gershom. Exodus 2, verse 22. And he called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. Moses' life as an outsider foreshadows Yahusha ministering outside his hometown, often rejected by those who thought they knew him, yet extending his mission to all nations. Matthew 13, verse 58 says, And he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Finally, the cries of Israel under oppression reached Yahusha, who remembered his covenant and prepared deliverance. Exodus 2, verses 23 through 25 says, And it came to pass in those days that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried. And their cry came unto Yahuah by reason of the bondage. And Yahuah heard their groaning, and Yahuah remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And Yahuah looked upon the children of Israel, and Yahuah had respect unto them. This pattern points forward to Yahusha responding to the groaning of humanity, bringing spiritual deliverance to all who are in bondage to sin. Romans 8, verse 22 says, For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together unto now. In this section, we see 3 layers of foreshadowing. Moses' righteous intervention as justice without favoritism, his role as a shepherd preparing to guide God's people, and the responsiveness of Yahuah to the cries of the oppressed, all prefiguring Yahusha's life and ministry of care, sacrifice, and deliverance. After Moses had settled in Midian, tending the flock of Reuel's daughters, Yahuah called him from a mountain. Exodus 3, verse 1 says, Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of Yahuah in Horeb. Moses' leadership began in humility as he moved from shepherd to servant of Yahuah. The bush that burned but was not consumed revealed the divine presence. Exodus 3, verse 2 says, And the angel of Yahuah appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. The fire that did not consume foreshadows Yahusha's holy and unending identity, his eyes blazing as a flame of fire, a presence fully alive yet untouched by corruption. Revelation 1, verse 14 confirms, His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame. Moses ascended the mountain, a place of revelation and divine encounter. Mountains are repeatedly scenes of God's disclosure and trials. Yahusha likewise faced trials and taught with authority on the mount, showing the connection between God's servants and divine presence. Yahuah revealed his name to Moses, saying in Exodus 3, verses 14 through 15, And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent thee unto you. And God said moreover unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, Yahuah, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath sent thee unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. This declaration foreshadows Yahusha, who repeatedly claimed, before Abraham was, I am, affirming his eternal self-existent identity. John 8 verse 58 says, Yahusha said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. Yahuah promised deliverance to Israel, Exodus 3 verse 8. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. This foreshadows Yahusha bringing humanity out of spiritual bondage. Pharaoh's refusal was predicted, Exodus 3 verse 19. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. This mirrors Yahusha's knowledge of human opposition. He beheld them and said, What is this then that ye see? Whom do ye think he is? He knew their hearts. In Exodus 4, Yahuah gave Moses signs to demonstrate divine authority, the rod becoming a serpent, Exodus 4 verses 2 through 4. Then Yahuah said to him, What is that in your hand? He said, A staff. And he said, Throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moshe ran from it. But Yahuah said to Moshe, Put out your hand and catch it by the tail. So he put out his hand and caught it, and it became a staff in his hand. This shows that even the instruments of evil are under divine control. It foreshadows Yahusha's authority over Hashatan and the serpent of Eden, demonstrating that through faith and obedience, tools of oppression can become instruments of salvation. Hebrews 2 verse 14 confirms, Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, he himself likewise partook of the same things, that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is, the devil. Moses' hand became leprous, then was healed, Exodus 4 verses 6 and 7. Then Yahuah said, Put your hand inside your cloak. So he put his hand inside his cloak, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous like snow. And he said, Put your hand back inside your cloak. So he put his hand back inside his cloak. And when he took it out, behold, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. This reveals the contrast between human weakness and divine restoration, foreshadowing Yahusha's miracles of healing. Water poured on dry ground becoming blood, Exodus 4 verse 9. If they will not believe even these two signs or listen to your voice, you shall take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground, and the water that you take from the Nile will become blood on the dry ground. This shows the word bringing both life and judgment. Moses feared speaking, Exodus 4 verse 10. But Moses said to Yahuah, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue. Yahuah provided Aaron as a mouthpiece, Exodus 4 verses 14 through 16. Then Yahuah became angry with Moses and said, Is there not Aaron your brother, the Levite? I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he is coming out to meet you. And when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth. And I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you both what to do. He shall speak for you to the people, and he shall be your mouth, and you shall be as God to him. This foreshadows the Ruach descending on Yahusha at baptism, empowering him for ministry. And when he was baptized, he went up straightway out of the water. And lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of Yahuah descending like a dove and lighting upon him. The rod also symbolizes divine power, pointing forward to Yahusha performing works openly by God's authority. Israel is called Yahuwah's firstborn, Exodus 4 verse 22. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, Thus says Yahuah, Israel is my firstborn son. This foreshadows Yahusha, the only begotten son. And the word was made flesh and dwelt among us. Yahuah disciplines Moses at the end, Exodus 4 verses 24 through 26, ensuring obedience and covenant faithfulness. This foreshadows Yahusha fulfilling the covenant perfectly. Moses' role as shepherd in Midian, tending the flock of Reuel's daughters, is enriched by the symbolism of the Hebrew letter lamed, the shepherd's staff. The staff has a hook to pull the sheep close and a pusher end to guide and protect. Moses' leadership combined drawing the lost near and pushing away danger, a living picture of Yahusha, the good shepherd, who gathers and guards his flock. Moses could have remained in Midian, living in peace with Zipporah and his son Gershom, whose name means stranger. Yet he obeyed Yahuah's call, leaving comfort and family to confront Pharaoh and lead Israel. This mirrors Yahusha, who could have avoided danger, but fulfilled Yahuah's mission to minister to the lost. Moses acted out of justice, Exodus 2 verse 19. He said to them, "Why have you left your flock to me?" He became a shepherd in Midian, preparing to lead Israel, foreshadowing Yahusha. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. Moses lived as a stranger in Midian, married Zipporah, and had Gershom. Exodus 2 verse 22. And he called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. This foreshadows Yahusha ministering outside his hometown, often rejected. And he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Meanwhile, the cries of Israel reached Yahuah. Exodus 2 verses 23 through 25. And it came to pass in those days that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up unto Yahuah by reason of the bondage. And Yahuah heard their groaning, and Yahuah remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And Yahuah looked upon the children of Israel, and Yahuah had respect unto them. This foreshadows Yahusha responding to humanity's groaning, for we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. Exodus 5 marks Moses' first confrontation with Pharaoh, foreshadowing Yahusha confronting religious authorities. Exodus 5 verse 1 says, And afterward Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, Thus saith Yahuah, the God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto thee in the wilderness. Pharaoh rejects Yahuah. Exodus 5 verse 2. And Pharaoh said, Who is Yahuah, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not Yahuah, neither will I let Israel go. This mirrors the rejection Yahusha faced from the rulers of Israel. Pharaoh increased oppression, Exodus 5 verses 6 through 14, foreshadowing the trials leading to the stake. Israel blamed Moses, Exodus 5 verses 20 through 21, foreshadowing rejection of Yahusha despite his mission. Finally, Moses cried out, Exodus 5 verses 22 through 23. And Moses returned unto Yahuah and said, O Yahuah, why hast thou so evil entreated this people? Why is it that thou hast sent thee? This reflects Yahusha's prayer in Gethsemane, saying, Father, if thou willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Through these chapters, every trial, act of justice, mountain encounter, water offering, and divine sign foreshadows Yahusha, the good shepherd, the living word, who brings life, justice, mercy, and salvation. Moses' journey, exile, Midian, the well, the mountain, and standing before Pharaoh, establishes the template for the Messiah. The rod, the fire, the water, the shepherd's heart, the staff, the cries of the oppressed, and triumph over evil all point to Yahusha, the word made flesh, bringing life and deliverance to all who will receive him.